Hey guys, my name is Beth Mason. I'm the owner of We Made This and Made It on Maine. We Made This is my line of homemade bath and body products. I make soaps and lotions and sugar scrubs, lip balms, all sorts of great things. And Made It on Maine is my brick and mortar store where I sell my products and also some of my sister's products. She makes some wax melts, other good things. The plan for tonight was for me to do a live soap demonstration. Super excited about it, had it all planned out, and then I had a conflict come up. So you guys are gonna see a pre-recorded video of me making soap. And then I'll be here live afterwards to do a Q&A and some breakout rooms. But we had to pre-record it. But I'm glad that I did because you'll see that I made a mistake. It's the first time I've ever made this mistake. I've been making soap for 4 years. So I had to edit the video quite a bit to get it to a much shorter time period so that you weren't watching me make soap all night long and I wasn't panicking. But that just goes to show you when you're making soap, you can make mistakes. And it'll probably be fine. You'll probably have soap in the end. It's not a big deal. Have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. The soap that you're gonna be seeing me make is a homemade stain stick. It's not a body soap. It's a really great soap for washing dishes. I call it stain stick because it's an amazing laundry pre-treat. If you have grease stains in your clothes, it takes it out fantastically. I chose to make this soap for a couple reasons. One is when I planned to do this live, there was really no way I was going to be able to make my regular body soap in a live video. It just takes too long. I've got to melt the oils, then let them cool down. I've got to get the lye solution, let it cool down. It takes a really long time, and then it has to sit 24 to 48 hours in the mold before I can get it out of the mold. So that was just going to be really hard to do live, but also the hardest thing about making soap in the beginning for me as a completely impatient person was that soap making takes so long. You have to be patient. So with this soap, you make it and you pop it in your refrigerator for about 3 hours, and then you take it out and you cut it. And you have to cut it then because otherwise it's gonna set up and it's gonna be really hard to cut. This is a 100% coconut oil soap, so easy for you to get the ingredients for. You don't have to wait 24 to 48 hours to get out of the mold. And then because you're not using it on your body, you don't have to wait for it to cure. So you can use it right away, because otherwise when you're making body soap, you have to let it cure for 4 to 6 to 8 to even longer, depending on what type of oils that you use. So hopefully you enjoy this, and this is a fun recipe that you can use to play with the art of soap making, and practice is fantastic. I love our stain stick. I actually use it to wash dishes. It's just a great overall cleaning bar, which if you're into cleaning without chemicals, this is perfect. So enjoy, and I will see you afterwards. When I recorded this, I was talking while I was working, but wasn't very happy with how that audio turned out, so now I'm dubbing over. So my hand motions may not 100% line up with what I'm saying, but we're gonna make it work. When you are making soap, there's just a few things that you're gonna need. The first thing is some sort of mold to make your soap in. This one that I'm showing you here is one that I have that's really nice, and it's quite large. I have that because I make soap professionally that I sell. You can see it has a silicone mold like I'm showing you here, or it has a silicone insert. But you do not need something this big or this nice. There's lots of other options that you could do that are much more affordable. They sell small, I think they're 2-pound molds on Amazon. You can get individual silicone molds like I'm showing you here. But even if you just have a wooden or plastic box that you line with parchment paper, that'll work just fine. Something else that you're gonna need is a scale. I'm pointing out there how dirty and gross mine is, but I use it a lot and I've had it for a long time. You are also going to need bowls and spoons, which should pop up here on the screen soon. There they are. You want to make sure that your plastic bowls that you're using can withstand the heat that is going to happen when you use lye. It gets quite hot. You're also going to need a stick blender, which I forget to show you in this opening scene, but you'll see it later. Ingredient-wise, you're going to need some lye. If you're making bar soap, you need to get sodium hydroxide. There is also potassium hydroxide, which you would use to make liquid soap. So you need to make sure that you have the right kind of lye. Even drain cleaner, if it's 100% lye, that is sodium hydroxide and it's perfectly fine to use. That's what I used in the beginning. I now buy it in bulk and it's a lot cheaper for me to get it from soaping websites, but drain cleaner works perfectly fine as long as it's 100% lye. You're also going to need butters or oils, whatever you're wanting to make your soap with, and you're going to need water. This is me showing you how to use a soap calculator. I'm going to cut most of this section out, mostly because I could do an entire hour presentation on formulating soap and using a soap calculator. And for purposes of this presentation, it's just too much to include. So just know that when you're making soap, that you do need to understand how to use a soap calculator. And if you want more help on that, I would be happy to help you. There are also really great YouTube videos about using a soap calculator. Just know that it's a really important part of making soap, and you should understand how to use the soap calculator. But I'm going to cut most of this out so that I don't talk to you for 3 hours tonight. For the purpose of this video, really all you need to understand about what I was doing in the soap calculator is that the soap that we're making is a 100% coconut oil soap. We're not making a body bar with this recipe. We're making a cleaning bar, something that I call a stain stick. So the information that I'm putting in there is that we're making a bar soap. So it has the sodium hydroxide. The next tab that we go over in the soap calculator is something called superfatting. And superfatting refers to how much oil is left over in your final product, how much oil is not saponified. Why would you want oil left over? Well, because if you don't superfat your soap and all of the oil is saponified, your end soap will be pretty drying to your skin. It'll give you that squeaky, clean, tight feeling, which is actually not a very pleasant feeling. So superfatting is important. But for this bar that we're making, we don't want a superfat because we're making not a bar for our body. We're making a cleaning soap. So this soap is 0% superfatted. There should be no remaining oil left in our soap. The other things that you put in the soaping calculator, you put in how much water you're going to use, how big of a batch you need, you pick the oils that you use. That's basically really all you need to know for this purposes of this video. It's 100% coconut oil, super fatted at 0. Once we're done with the soap calculator, it gives us our recipe. So it tells me how much water to use, how much oil, and how much lye. So we're going to start weighing everything out. Those fancy jazz hands that I just did was me pointing out that you should do what I say and not necessarily what I do in this video. When you make soap, you should be wearing gloves, long sleeves, an eye protection, closed-toed shoes. You can splash that lye solution around, and later in this video, you're going to see batter splash around. If that batter or that lye solution touches your skin, the lye can and will burn you. So you should really protect yourself. I've been making soap for a really long time. In the beginning, I wore gloves and the long sleeves, but I'm gonna be really honest, I have sensory issues and I hate the way the gloves feel, and I've been burned by lye many times and it mostly just feels like itching to me. So I elect not to wear the gloves, and I forgot to wear long sleeves today. So do what I say, not what I do. Please protect yourself and be safe. So here we're just measuring out the water. You should be using distilled water when you make soap. If you have to use tap water, it's not the end of the world. There are just minerals and other things in tap water that make it hard to control the end product. So if you can, you should be using distilled water. We weigh out the water per what the soap calculator told us we should be using. And I actually, when I was making this, got a little bit too much water. You don't have to be completely precise with your water. It's okay if you have a little bit more or a little bit extra than what the calculator says, but you'll see at the end, towards the end, that I probably should have poured that extra water back because it took a really long time for the soap to set up because I had too much water. Now we're gonna measure out the lye. You really should be precise with your lye, and err on the side of having not enough versus too much lye. So the lye that I have is beads. You can find lye in a couple different forms. Beads and flakes are the two most common that I see. I actually prefer the flakes. You'll probably be able to see when I start pouring this lye out that the beads kind of get some static going on with the plastic bowls. It's kind of annoying. But the beads do dissolve quicker in water, so that's the positive of having the beads. And if you find that your lye is too staticky, you can also rub like a dryer sheet inside your bowl. So here I am pouring it in and weighing it out. I know you can't see the weight on my scale, but I'm just weighing out that lye, and you'll see I got too much. So I need to put some back. And I didn't have a spoon handy, so here's me awkwardly scooping it out with a spatula. It's not the most effective. I didn't want to pour it directly from the bowl back into the container because it was really staticky and I didn't think that was going to work super well, but this also didn't work super well. But I did get it to the exact measurement that I needed. So then we moved on to our oil. I did speed this section up of me putting the coconut oil in the bowl because it drug on for quite a while, and it is just me putting coconut in a bowl. I buy my coconut oil in bulk from a wholesaler, but you can get coconut oil just at the grocery store or anywhere. I used to buy coconut oil from Big Lots because they had a great deal on it. I apologize for the video flipping. My son actually called me in the middle of that, and then when I started re-recording, for some reason the rest of the video is in mirrored. I clearly don't know what I'm doing, but so sorry about that. Here's me scraping out. I got a little bit too much oil. You can't see my scale, but I'm weighing this all out. So just putting coconut oil back in its tub. And now everything's all weighed out. So you'll see here, I'm grabbing the water and the lye, and I'm getting ready to make my lye solution. It's really important when you do this that you add the lye into the water and not the other way around. You don't want to be adding water into your lye. You want to be slowly adding that lye into your water, and I kind of stir in between, just making sure that everything's getting dissolved in there. As you're doing this, you're going to see your water gets a little bit cloudy. It will clear up. And also the chemical reaction that's happening, that water is going to get pretty hot. So I've got all of that in there, and I've got it combined. And I'm just stirring that up to make sure it's nice and combined. You can't really see in the video, but also in that chemical reaction, you can see it every once in a while if you look closely. You get some gassing that happens. It looks like steam coming up. It's important you don't breathe that in. It will make you cough and it will hurt. So make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. Maybe open a window if you're really worried about it. You can see me there tapping to see how hot it is, and it was quite hot. But you can also wear like a cloth mask you have from your pandemic days, and that helps you not breathe that in. I stand back as far as I can when I'm stirring that in. And I also make sure that my kids don't come in while I'm adding in the lye, or that they're aware that I'm adding in the lye so that they can stand back and aren't breathing in those chemicals. So I am pulling that to the side, bringing back out my oils, and I'm going to use the heat transfer method in this video. That just means I am adding the hot lye right into the oil, and I'm going to have the hot lye solution melt the oils. I'm doing it this way so that you guys can see the whole process. It's a lot faster than melting down my oils and letting them come to room temperature, letting the lye come to room temperature. I only use this method when I'm making this specific recipe. Typically, I melt down my hard oils. In the microwave, I let them sit, let them come back to room temperature, or close to room temperature. They can't come all the way back to room temperature, or they will just harden back up. And I let my lye come down to at least 100 degrees. The lye was probably, I didn't temp it, but it was probably near at least 180 when I added it in here. You can see that it's melting down that coconut oil, and I'm kind of squishing it to make smaller pieces so that it melts faster. And just melting down that oil. Even though this is a little bit faster of a process, it does take some patience as you stir it all around and melt everything down. You have to be careful while you're stirring not to flick things out of the bowl so that you're not getting lye everywhere. And I'm going to speed the rest of this up just a little bit more. Ooh, look at that. Super quick, speedy stirring that I'm doing there. This is sped up to about 4 times regular. But I figure there's only so much time that you want to watch me stir the lye solution into the coconut oil. So once this is all melted down, we're going to stick blend it. And as I said earlier, I add a little bit too much water in this one. So I'm also going to speed up that stick blending process because you probably don't want to watch that for as long as it took me either. But here I am. It's almost done, almost all melted in. I was kind of squishing some remaining bits over to the side. And we're gonna get the stick blender out here in a second so we can stick blend this. And there she is. I'm gonna break in here for a second because it was in this exact moment of editing this video when I realized why it took my soap so long to emulsify and why I had to blend it for so long. And that is because in the video, I'm using the wrong attachment on my stick blender. I've been making soap for a long time. And so yeah, enjoy the rest of the video. That is not the right attachment on my stick blender. So it did work. This is just to say you can mess up while you're making soap and the end result will be fine. It worked out fine. But I would not have had to blend as long as I did. And I also couldn't figure out why my soap was like flinging around so much. It's because I was using the wrong attachment. Welcome to my life. This is just kind of how I am as a person. Hot mess. But yeah, so I guess if you have that kind of blender, you can use that attachment, but that's not the right thing. So we're back. Here's me blending my soap with the complete wrong attachment. It's fine. It worked out. This is sped up to 4 times as well because it takes forever using this attachment. If I was using the right thing, which I'll show you here in a little bit at the end, what I should have been using, this would have taken just a few seconds, just a zip, 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 and we would have been done. As a new soap maker, the biggest mistake I made when using the correct blender attachment was over blending, and the soap would turn super thick super fast, which made it really hard to get into the mold. You can see using the wrong attachment, it took forever. This is sped up a lot. It also was flinging soap batter everywhere. Here's me checking to see if it's emulsified. I was really confused why it wasn't coming together faster. You can see that it is emulsified though, because when I pull up the spoon, the oil isn't separating out from the water. That's what we're checking for. If you don't get it fully emulsified and your oil is separating out in your end result, your water will be sitting on top of your oil. It won't combine, it won't work, it won't make soap. So there it is, all in the mold. And I was confused why it was still so liquidy. It should have still been liquidy. And yeah. This soap gets super hot, so I'm going to pop this into the refrigerator so that it doesn't get too hot and do something called volcanoing, where it kind of explodes out of its mold. But I had to let it sit here for a little bit because it was too liquidy to put in the refrigerator. So I let it sit there for about 15 minutes before I could move it into the refrigerator. So I'll come back and show you the end result when it's done. It doesn't take too long to make this soap. It's going to take a couple hours for it to set up in the refrigerator. And then we'll be back to get it out of the mold. And like magic, we're back with the soap. You can see it's starting a nice white color. It's been about 3 hours. Dump out of the box. Now, you see how old my mold is. It's all discolored. With a soap that isn't 100% coconut oil, this would normally sit in its mold for probably 24 to 48 hours before I could take it out. And it would have to cure for 4 to 8 weeks, or maybe even longer, depending on the oils that you used. But this has been 3 hours, and we've got to cut this, or we won't be able to, because 100% coconut oil soap gets hard super fast and impossible to cut. So you can see it's still pretty soft. The ends are breaking here, and that's okay. But it would have been a lot harder already if I had used the correct attachment, which would have looked like this, but I didn't. So you can cut soap a whole bunch of different ways. I have a multi-bar cutter. You can get soap cutters off of Amazon, or you can just use a knife. I typically cut my soap with a 1-inch multi-cutter, but for this demonstration, I'm going to use this crinkle cutter. And it goes through super easy because we didn't let it set up too hard. And it's a nice bar of our stain stick. The soap is so great for washing dishes, getting stains out of clothing, or just general cleaning. You can see, let's put hair on it. You can see it's still hot through there. That circle is the soap going through a gel phase. But yeah, that's our coconut oil soap. I hope that you guys learned a lot from this. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I would love to help you guys.